help desk back in '93. Actually, I was a student here, and 6 months before I graduated, I said, well, I'm not waiting until I graduate to get a job. I'm going to get a job before everyone else graduates. So I went through the paper, and I got to Olston Temporary Services. I worked at Northwestern Mutual Life. And I was telling Pat, in an area called Micro Park. This is back in 1993. There barely CD-ROMs were out then. And what I would do is I would mix and match Dell Optiplex PCs with Dell monitors. We'd mix and match those. I would take off the operating system, put a new operating system back on. 97 proprietary floppy disks, because that's what NML had at the time. And then each department would run their piece of the NML software. You would run your part, and you would rate all 5 computers and monitors, speed, blah, blah, blah. You would do your part, you would do your part, you would do your part. There were actually people in this area that would take care of that. And at the end, everyone does their recommendations, and then NML would say, okay, we are buying this PC with this monitor. And then they would call Dell, and they'd call NEC, and they'd buy 2,000 of these. And they put them together, get them preloaded in Arizona, and then Arizona would ship them out to the agents, ergo only having one type of setup to support. But they believed a lot into, they are the quiet company. Everything's quiet there. There's nothing on the floor. There's no radios playing. There's nothing. Everything is very quiet. Everything is very, very systematic. And it's a lot different environment. I worked at US Bank also, and then, so I worked over there. And then I was told there was a job opening here. And actually in 1993, I was the first help desk person. And then in 2000, I had an opportunity to get moved to the network group. And I said, sure, we'll just go over there and do that. And we've been running Active Directory up in channels 1036 for 12 years now. And MATC's Active Directory we put together about 3 years ago. And we're slowly moving from a Novell infrastructure to an Active Directory infrastructure. And it's just, there's a lot of issues along the way that people just don't figure in. So basically that's my background. I'm an MCP and MCSA and MCSE. And took all those dumb little tests that you have to take. And failed one. I did fail one. And I had to go back and take it again. Of course, the one I failed, I have to pay for that test out of my own money. MATC would reimburse me for any for successful tests. But those tests they're stuff you would never use ever in real life. Who would ever configure the fax server on a PC is beyond me. But what I'd like to do today is give you an idea, and some of this does emulate our actual Active Directory, of how to set up an Active Directory with some considerations. Most of the time when you set up an Active Directory, the consideration that you should make is, are you going to set it up logically, geographically? We're going to do ours logical here. We do need to make one change in the default domain policy. When you work with group policy, never, ever, ever edit the default domain policy, except to make one change, because it'll go to everything. It'll go to every server, every domain controller, every user, every PC. What we're going to do is we're going to divide that into pieces. And
if that gets too slow, Bob, it might be that Camtasia Studio, and just I'll close the application if it's. You think it gets kind of laggy? Yeah.
this is pretty.
So again, it's just kind of, let's just close it then.
Okay, what I'm going to do for the part of this demo, I do not need complex passwords for this demo. I don't want to sit there and type. What's a complex password? Does anyone know what a complex password is?
One uppercase, one lowercase.
How many characters?
Unusual character
Yeah,
number.
8 characters.
Eight.
Okay, and then you need 3 of the 5. You need upper, lower, numbers, alphanumeric, and what they call Unicode characters, which would be like a French symbol with a little doodad. We don't want to do that for this demonstration. So we are going to disable that policy in our group policy. Let's see if everything else behaves now. Okay. As you know, we have a domain controller. We're going to leave that in the domain controllers. By default, everything else goes in computers by default. Why would you ever want to manage all your computers and all your servers in one OU? You would not. You want to break that apart. And on Windows 2008, there's this little checkbox that prevents you from accidentally deleting OUs. And we're going to do one more. And we're going to put our workstations in a different OU. Why would we do all this now? You're going to do that because of group policy. You can now target group policy towards your OUs. So we're going to take this, we're going to drop it into member servers. Move that, sure. Under workstations, for example, at MATC, under workstations, we divided that out geographically north, south, east, west. Within that, then we have faculty and staff, and then we have labs. So for this, because they can have different policies. So here we're going to put a different organizational unit. We're going to put Division A. And we will make a new OU, organizational unit, for Division B. We will now take our computers, take this one, and we can also right-click, say Move. It's probably the better way to do this. Instead of dragging and dropping, that can be dangerous, because you also need to say, it's not there. Where'd it go? And you dragged and dropped it somewhere else. Okay. So we got part of our, okay, now we need another OU. Okay, do we want to put all our users in users? Heck, no. We save the users for these funky little users here in groups. Remember, we're thinking, think group policy. We need to make a new OU. Employees. And then usually in most companies under employees, you have different departments or different divisions. Let's get real original here. Division A. And Division B. And then this way we can apply a group policy at the employee OU, and we can also apply a group policy at the divisional OU. And group policy is additive. So it'll add it all together and give you a resultant policy. Okay, so now we did that. Okay, typically, here's the administrator account. Under here, administrator account. I would make an administrator equivalent account. We're not going to do that today, but we create a new OU called IT admins and put them in there. You don't want to use this account. Plus, you want to rename that account. You never know. Someone might not guess your accounts. Ooh, administrator. And just start doing a password hack. So, for example, at MATC, we have a separate OU for administrators. Again, they can have other policies applied to them. In employees at MATC, IT does not come under employees. They have their own OU. There's unique circumstances that IT should be separate from everyone else. Okay. We need another one too. And try to making this easier to find stuff. We're going to call this, we're putting all our global groups into its own OU. Why would you want to search in all these different OUs for groups when if you know you put all your groups together, I got one place to shop for my groups. They're all in the same spot.
Hey Bob, I'm curious, MATC has a bunch of groups, I mean, like, order of magnitude, like, how many are we talking about, like, at MATC?
500-600
Okay, so.
groups. Depends what you want to do with groups. Groups you use for permissions,
Yeah,
mainly for permissions. You don't want to give permissions to people, you want to give them to groups.
okay.
When the person leaves, you delete the user, it comes out of the group. You don't want to have to sit there and go, I put Pat as a permission on this server in this folder. No. There's other logic too also about doing localized groups too. But anyway, so we got that groups, we got our servers, we got our PCs moved around. We also need to make in our groups, we need to make, in our OU groups, we are going to make a group. And we are going to call it GG. GG is a global group. What you want to call it is up to you. We use GG and we use also LG. LG is our local groups on servers. GG global group. It's a security group. It's a domain, a global group. So we're going to make one of those. And we're going to make another group. And you'll see how this all comes together. Okay. Now, you should probably just make the users. We're going to make one user. In Division A, we will make a new user. Called 1. We're not going to do that. We're going to never expire that. We'll give it a password I can remember. Normally you would never do this. You would let your domain password policy work. However, there is a way through some other little tricks that you can create password policies that are separate from the domain and put users into that. For example, we have a domain policy that says this. However, our admin policy is a lot more restrictive, 13 characters. So we make a special policy and then we put our admins into that policy. They have to change it every 30 days. They can't use the same old password over and over again. Of course, you want security. The hard part is security against usability. And then you have the cost thing. He's right on the board, right?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Okay. This is the stuff we battled every day. This is the stuff we battle every day. We have 2 magical triangles. We have usability, security, we have it under security, and cost. I want great usability. I don't want to pay much. You're not going to have security. I want super security and low cost. You're not going to have much usability. So you add 2, subtract the other one. I want all the security. That comes at a price. Oh, I don't have that much money. Then you're going to lose one of these 2, security or usability. The other one is my favorite. People, technology, and process. All 3 have to work. I've got this great technology that says you can log in between noon and 4. I got a process that I can prevent that. If people don't follow it, the technology won't work. The reason that people don't want to, they just don't want to do it. The biggest obstacle, politics. I want everyone to do this. Well, except me, of course. Well, so I've got to rewrite the technology for one person. Of course, it depends on how far that person's up to scale. So most of the time when you're doing Active Directory, you're going to be looking at a lot of this. How much security do I need? I need lots of security. I got to protect all this stuff. Yeah, but we can't use it then. If I would say, I can't use this stuff. Well, I got to trade that off now. Do I have anything that I can help him with security and usability, or usability and still maintain security? Depends if you got any money. Got no money? No, can't help you. Are you willing to give up the security of the entire workstations for usability. As long as you don't mind those workstations being rebuilt every week. Did you give away admin rights? Everyone says, he says no. Other people say, well, I gotta get stuff done, like I've gotta install the latest Flash player. No, you don't. You don't need that. You don't need the latest Java client, because there are other products like SCCM that can push that stuff down. And then there's the evil word, and we'll get back to this, the P word. Plan. No one wants to plan. This stuff takes time. You know? So, you know, some people say, well, I need that screensaver. When the screensaver's on, you're not working. I need to see my kids in the background. When the kids and you see your kids in the background, you're not working. Because otherwise the Excel spreadsheet would be in the front, or the Access database. So it depends. For example, up in TV, they can't control their background. They can't control the screensavers. Guy on TV says they need to work, not play. Their job is not to play, it's to get work done. So depending what type of company you would work at, NML was all about work. They gave you free lunch because they didn't want you to leave. You got free lunch every day, you gained 10 pounds. They didn't want you to leave. I got a 37-minute lunch hour. 3.5 minutes to get there, 3.5 minutes back, and 30 to eat. That was the expectation. Started at 8:10, left at 4:10. I was there at 4:15 one day. Why are you here? Go home. Okay, if that's what you want. So this is a lot in Active Directory is the cost of doing business. So we're going to have this employee 1, and in division 2, we are going to make employee number 2. Good group. 2. Okay. Oops. That's not going to work. All right, so we have, okay. Division A. Who's going to be a member of Division A? Okay, also, what do we need to do that no one likes doing? Document members of Div A. And actually, what you should do probably is who you are, the date you created this, because someday you're going to come back and say, who the heck did this? Oh, that was me. Okay, who's going to be a member of that is 1. Group 2. And you can get as descriptive as you want. Member of Division B. And now we have that. Okay, so we have our users in these OUs, and they're also a member of these group memberships. Our workstations have been moved to the divisions. We have a member server out here. We have our domain controller, and we have no computers because we don't need them here. Okay, now, what we need to do, we want our users are going to need home folders. Everyone wants to save stuff. So we're going to our member server, and we are going to create a folder called, oh boy, users. Oh, sorry, Pat, you already have one called users. I don't know what you're doing in there. I don't want to put anything in there. We're going to call employees. Okay, under employees, we need to give this some sharing permissions. We're going to share this. Oh, better put my name in here. Permissions. Oops. I don't know if you've ever noticed that authenticated users, authenticated. We'll put our authenticated users. So share so they get it all. We don't need everyone. What's the difference between everyone and authenticated users?
Everyone is for administrators and every group, user group, and authenticated users just that specific.
Close. An easier way is everyone includes guest.
No.
Authenticated users doesn't include this. What's the difference between authenticated users and domain users? Think about a server. Pat Fetter can be a user on this server as a local account. He'd be considered an authenticated user. If you set it for just domain users, Pat Fetter's local account could not access that folder.
Oh.
So we just do authenticated users. You have shares are typically full control and you lock everything else down with NTFS. So now security here, we're going to say authenticated users again. I actually want to change that. Authenticated users are going to only to that folder. And then we're going to create a new folder here. Div A. Another folder. Div B. Actually, what we want to do here I am taking away all those other user rights because it said users could read. Nested in local users is domain users. That means everyone in the domain could read all those folders. You can't have that. But of course our domain admins is going to have all this stuff. So authenticated users can read this folder only. Okay. Underneath here, you'll see it just says domain admins. Remember, that was the only one that was inherited. Who should we add to here? GG div A. Those people, less full control, are going to have access to that folder. Div B is going to be tied to the users. Div B. Okay. So, this is going to be for a shared drive. Everyone wants to share stuff. Everyone loves sharing stuff. So, people that are in Division A will put their crap that they want to share with the other people in that division into their Division A folder. Division P will put theirs in Division B. This is not their home folders. Actually, I did this all wrong, but that's okay. We're going to continue on. That was supposed to be their home folders, but we are now going to say a new folder, users 2, and that is going to be users 2. Again, we're going to share that folder with permissions, add authenticated users, take away everyone, share permission. Typically on caching, I don't make any files available offline. You want to, offline files is something hideous to get involved with. It really is. that requires a lot of it might work. The idea was back from Windows 95 that people would take out their files with them. It just doesn't work in a lot of environments to let people try to synchronize all the time. They go home, they work with their files. Do I really want you to take all my corporate files home? And then you're going to come back, and then you're going to surf on the internet, and you're going to do some other stuff, maybe pick a virus up or something. Then you can come back, hook your laptop into my network, and you're going to resynchronize those files back? Probably not the best ideas. There's other solutions for that. We're going to go back to this here. We're going to give read list. Read list. Okay. So users 2 is going to be our home folder. Users 2. And let's see. Now what I'd like to do is get much of this done today as possible and then save questions for the end, if that's okay with everyone. Storage manager. And this is grinding away, so that's okay. Microsoft has all these little pieces all over the place. Nothing's in one place, as you would hope it would be. What we're looking now is access-based enumeration. Novell had this in the 80s. Microsoft never came up with this until 2003. They would show you the folders, all the folders of a folder that you could read, but you couldn't even access. So why would you show people all this stuff that they can't get at? So they came out with ABE, or access-based enumeration, to basically hide folders you don't have permissions to do and see. However, you have to enable that on a per share basis. And as we grind away here, let's see, we have finished creating our users. Group your users by division or however you see fit. So here we're going to go properties on the employee share. Access-based enumeration is disabled. Advanced, enabled. Apply. Okay, and our server is called SRV2. Okay. That's our divisional shares, and then we're going to go to our user share. And that's also not enabled by default. We are going to enable that. Okay. And I think I closed. Okay, that should set up our. Hopefully, that's going to set this up. Employee A needs a home folder. Profile, connect. What drive letter do we want to give them? We'll give them I for individual. Now we'll give them H for home. That resides on SRV-2/ anyone? Users 2. These are home folders / what will we put here? We are using a variable called %username. And that's going to take the user's name automatically. We go look over here. Oh, there's their folder. And their folder should have 2 users. Well, all administrators, all domain, well, I meant to say domain. Let's ignore this for now. I should have said domain admins and the guy called 1. So that's a mistake on my part. I suppose I could take this out. Let's go back in here. Go security. add domain admins. Domain users, remove. There. Okay, now let's go look at back here. Domain admins. Okay. Now we go back to our domain controller, and this is if you want to give people local storage. It's kind of a good idea, I guess. People want to work on stuff and save stuff while you're at the company. Go to profile, H drive, whack. Server name, whack, 2% username. Now we have approximately, this morning we had 49,080 users at MATC. You don't think we actually do this for everyone. For the employees, this is an automated process. We bought a product, believe it or not, from Novell, does the best job at creating home directories. We have 6 home servers. On each home server, there are 5 shares. So that gives me a total of 30 directories. Now, this program, I tell it to go when a new user gets added to the employee OU. Is a program, another program that adds it, and it adds it into the correct division. But the rule says when you add a new employee, kick off this rule. And this rule says create a home directory across one of those 30 shares automatically. And it's called a randomization. It'll randomly create a share for this person. And it'll connect it, and it will show up. It will show up pre-populated just like this. When that person leaves, there's another OU called disabled employees. Something gets triggered from HR. This person's leaving, we're firing Pat. So once it comes through, it says, look for his ID, Pat, and move it to the disabled OU. At which time this other program goes, wait a second, we need to move all his files. Then that will move all his files automatically to a disabled server. Why do we want to do that? Disabled servers, we only back up once a week. These other servers, we back up every night. We do shadow copies at 7 in the morning, noon, 4 o'clock, and 8 o'clock at night. I don't know if anyone knows what shadow copies are. Anyone know what shadow copies are? That's good. You can Google that later. If we have time, we'll go look at it. But shadow copies does a snapshot in time of what's going on shared drives. So you start a document at 7 o'clock. Let's try 11 o'clock in the morning, and you wreck it. I can get your document back from 7 in the morning. Actually, you, the end user, can actually do it yourself. The idea is, now in the old days, you had to wait. Oh, we have to go find the tape, mount the tape. Even if you wanted one lousy file, it has to read the entire tape, and then it would restore the file. Now a restore we can do for you in under 2 minutes, assuming you can give us the path of the file you deleted. I knew it was on my H drive in this folder, and it was called bob.txt. Oh, I can find that. If you tell me, I think it's somewhere out here, but I don't know what it's called, that's going to be hard. Okay, so now we have that. Let's go back over to our servers here. Let's go over to here, and we are going to, this is on PC, I'm not sure which one. Oh, it's number 1. We're going to log off. And YouTube. Okay, we're going to get rid of this too eventually. So we're in. Oh, Need to switch user, other user, demo, one. Why is this taking so long?
I don't know.
Sure you do. Why is this taking so long?
Because you've never logged on to Windows 7.
And what's it doing right here? Pardon?
Loading your profile.
Ah, more exact.
It's creating.
Creating a profile.
Creating a profile.
While that one's doing that one, we're going to go over here and take this guy and have him log in, confirming that our H drive maps. Okay. Okay, so that's there. Eh. That is who it says we are, one. Now, would I have all this stuff here by default if we were building images? Probably not. The more you leave people, the more you put out there, the more they can play. Depends if your objective is to get work done. Okay, so one's H drive works just fine. Sounds like number 2 is ready to go. Number 2. Number 2. There's number 2's home folder. And we will put the classic 2.txt. Okay, so we've made, all right, so now we are going to make a policy, hopefully, and make it so we don't see those names, the last name, or that who logged on. So we're going to go to group policy, and we are going to make a policy after we restart group policy. And group policy management. All right, now you see this kind of emulates, let's put this guy. This pretty much does the same thing as your organizational structure, but as policy basis. We're going to put a policy at this level. It will affect whatever users and computers are in here. However, we're just using computers, so we have to make sure we only edit a computer policy. Any user policy will not affect anything here because there are no users here. So we're going to create a GPO in this domain and link it here. What should we call our GPO? GPO workstations. Let's say more specific. All workstations. Okay, this is a shortcut. The real policy lives here. This is just a shortcut to the policy. Now we have to edit our policy and say, what do we want our policy to do? Remember, we are dealing with computers. Has anyone worked with group policy? Group policy. Computers or users, or both. I want to apply a policy on a user, group of users, an OU of users, saying this is what you can do. Or I want to apply a set of policies for workstations or servers. This is what you can do. And that's why you want everything divided up so you can apply different policies. If you apply a policy to all computers, every server, every computer will get it. If you give it to all users, even your administrator will get it. You don't want to handcuff the users, the administrators. Let's see. We are going to have a computer policy, a security policy actually, that says we are going to not display the last user that logged in. Okay, think of a lab environment. Do you want your name up there as the last person that logged in? Probably not. I'm going to give you a title. I'm going to make a little box for this too. Attention. Work, no play. Whatever you want to say here. Have a nice day. Okay. So, we have a policy associated to all workstations that says do not display the last username. Put in a title bar and text. There's lots of other stuff you can do here. You can say do not require a Control-Alt-Delete. Everyone knows what Control-Alt-Delete does? We had a IT administrator 12 years ago that had us disable that. He didn't want people to have to push Control-Alt-Delete. He said, that's just a feature. Control-Alt-Delete, going back to Windows NT, was a C2 security. That's what was required by the Air Force at the time in the Army to be considered C2. You had to have physical contact in order to get into that machine. There's lots of other policies you can put in here. All right, so this policy is done. When does that policy take effect? Any guesses?
Next time you restart.
When you restart, that is correct. Computer policies are on the restart. The user policies are on what? The logon, right. So we're going to restart that one, and if I did everything right, those should work just fine. In the meanwhile, while that's going on, we'll close our users folder here. Employees, I don't know if I changed the employee one, permission-wise. We're going to do another group policy after we make sure that one works. For example, on one of the group policies we use for our IT admins is lock the workstation after 10 minutes and require a password to get in. Why? We want if the cleaning people come in. Oh, look at that, that's wide open. What's this do? You don't want that to happen. A better policy is, again, it's a policy. You should lock your workstation when you walk away. Oh, I just got to go answer the door. Oh, that guy's asking me some questions. Oh, can you come with me? Now I walked away by PC, logged in as admin, which is also bad, is left wide open. You should, if you notice in Windows 7s, you have two options. You can do switch user. You should have two accounts. I have a Dornar account, which is my email, and then I have another account. That's an admin account. I do not do email through the admin account. You do admin stuff through the admin account. Nothing else. You can switch with Windows 7. Remember, you can switch user. They're both logged in simultaneously. Do admin stuff. When you're done, get out. You're not that busy to do admin stuff all day long. When you read an email, use another computer or use your other ID. If there's some corrupt email files can come sliding through. Oops, look, that guy's an admin. We'll just go and start getting and corrupting stuff. That would be bad. That's an easy thing to say, but it's hard for people to practice. The equivalent of back in the, I'm a little older than most of you guys. Back in the 60s, my dad left the car in the driveway, unlocked, windows down, and the key in the ignition. Because who would ever take your car? It was easy. He had the usability. Came out and start the car right up. Same thing, if you're an admin and you're doing this, it's easy, it's usable, but it's not very secure. Now, over the days, I mean, how many grew up where you left the front door open at night? Yeah. I get the fresh air come through. Just leave it open. It's no big deal. So we try to look at that. See, now we have a Control-Delete, which we didn't have before. Well, we did have before, I believe. And hopefully, there's our attention. Work, no play, have a nice day, and it blocked out the last person's name. Okay, the other one would say the same thing too. Have a nice day. You can change that message. Let's say you wanted to have an attention message for everyone, maintenance on this day. You might send something on an email ahead of time or whatever and say, you need to read these things. You have a question?
So the switch users is now gone too?
Now, when the switch users on here is gone, yes. Once you log in, you can switch users.
Okay.
So if we log in as, we're going to try to keep it simple, on computer 2 as number 2.
But by default, before it used to have switch users.
You're in a draconian environment now. You're being managed by the evil network administrator. I don't want you to be able to do that. However, you can still switch user here.
Okay. Can you disable that?
Probably. I'm sure who's your bestest friend in computing?
Google.
That is the correct answer. There is very rarely anything you have ever come across that someone else hasn't come across first. And it's just the best part about Google, or if you're a good Googler, you have to start thinking in these frames of how someone else might word this, and then you'll be okay. So we now need to come up with a shared drive for our 2 divisions. Ooh, this is nasty here. Okay. Okay, that was under storage management. We also, if we have time, we'll configure shadow copies for deleting stuff. All right, here we need to go into, okay, we're done with this. Employees is where our divisions is. We're going to put a file out there. Hi, I'm div A. And I'm doing text because we don't have Office installed on these things. So other than a WordPad, a text is just for an example. Hi, I'm div B. Okay. Now, so your user here, they have a home directory. But they need something to share with all the other people. So what we need to do is write down my feeble mind here. SRV server name -2 / what is the share name? The share name for this is employees. That's the share name. Remember, you go one above, there's the share. That's called employees. So I just need the share name, employees. And then the folder path would be div A and div B. Okay. Okay. Now, we need to go back to group policy. Okay. We are done with the domain policy. Oops. Under Division A, we're going to make a new policy. Create new policy. GPO. Whatever your naming convention, stay with the same naming convention so it's easy to explain to someone else. Why do I put dashes and not spaces? You put spaces anytime you want to run like a script, you have to include it in quotes. If you don't put spaces, you don't have to worry about the quote thing. While people like to put spaces into their documents, spaces in folders is not the best thing. Then if I need to get to your folder through a share, I've got to put quotes around this all the time. Okay, so we're going to say shared drive div A. Okay. On this policy, we are going to say, edit this policy, and it's going to be a user policy. Remember, now it's in the user area, correct? There are policies and then preferences. Does anyone know the difference between a policy and a preference? Just you think of what the words are saying. What is a policy? You will do this. What is a preference? I'm going to start you off with something, but you can change it later. Microsoft says we're going to let you do drive mappings as a preference. So we're going to do a drive mapping. We're going to make a new under user. Remember, we're in users. Nothing we do in computers would work because that's not a computer in that OU. There are users, however. It's a preference. We're going to do a drive mapping, a map drive. What do we want to do? I want to create a new map drive into SRV-2/employees div A. That is the path to that folder. Label div A, I guess. What drive letter do we want to give it? This would just seem so strange to say use the first available drive letter. Who knows what that drive letter would be? It's a shared drive, so maybe we should call it S. We don't care about any of this. We're going to target this. What group is going to get this? GG div A. We're going to target it to div A. This user, so under the domain of demo, there's a global group which has this SID, and it says if it's a member in this group, don't forget here, don't forget to put a little something there, so it'll create this to div A. Okay, so that policy is all done there. I'm going to make another policy. GPO shared div B. Okay. Now group policy, they have books on just group policy. There's 800-page book just on group policy. There's a lot of stuff you can do in group policy. We had some stuff the other day that if it weren't for group policy, you'd have to touch 2,500 machines. So that's a good thing sometimes. SRV, okay, your server name, your share name, or ease, and your folder name. Now that folder name, you could have 12 more folders in. Doesn't matter where you map, as long as that end user has got permissions to get there, they will get there. We will also give them, we'll give division B, I know it's shared, but we're going to give them a Q drive. And then we are going to say, we're going to target that against a security group. Here's everything you can do on policies. I can say to the policy, now this would be a computer policy at this point, how much RAM does it have? How much, what's the operating system? Disk space. Why would I use disk space if I would install a new program? I want to make sure there's at least 2 gigs free. Other devices wouldn't work. Otherwise, it would run and it would die. And the user would call and say, I'm getting an error. Well, I just pushed the new Office to you. Oh, you don't have enough disk space because you've garbaged it up with all your files of your kids in your background. So what you can do is you can do a disk space and say I need at least 2 gigs free. Then run this policy. These are all conditions that have to be met before the actual whatever you tell the policy to do would actually run. Div, GG div B. Okay. Okay, so we did that, we did that, we did that. Okay, so there, Division B will get a Q drive. Division A will get an S drive. Drive mappings only take place at login. There is for some group policies, backgrounds, icons you can have can be refreshed every 30 to 90 minutes. Drive mappings only take place at login. So let's log in onto number 1 here. Have a nice day. Okay. Now, if I did everything right, which I didn't do everything right, give a effective permissions. He's got all the permissions. So did I call the server wrong? Okay, here's the other way to check. Okay, so I can see it. All right. Employees, div A, there's the file. This didn't process. Let's see if our other one, that wouldn't be there. Let's do this. Let's do a GP update. YNC sync. Access denied. GP update. Okay. I think some of these are going to restart. While that one restarts, we'll see if this one comes around. All right, so this one got the Q drive. So in the Q drive, there's this person. Okay. So that just took an update on the policy. Remember also, you can do a, we did update, you can do a GP result /R. Okay. It says, as the user, this user that we're logged in as 2, the applied group policy object is GPO share division B. The following were not filtered out, which is fine. This user is the part of the following security groups. You can find out anything about any user by just doing a GP result R. That's how you troubleshoot to see if your policy would run. If you didn't see that policy there, you go, they're not reading the policy, and that's why they wouldn't run. We've also seen it necessary sometimes. Let's go back to number 2. To make another share called all employees. Okay. So, what are the share permissions going to be? We're going to add authenticated user, and it's a share permission, so they'll get everything. Get rid of everyone. And we are just doing this to cover our butts. Okay. Document, document, document. Everyone says, I hate documenting. Every year, our supervisor comes to us and says, you need to document more. We do screenshots, we do stuff, we send emails out to our own group. We have a place where we put documents. A lot of times, you'll do this, and you won't do it for 3 months. And you go, I can't remember how this is done. If indexed correctly, you can find the document, or someone else can say, how do you do this? I don't know, but guess what? Go look at the documents. I bet you you'll find it. Do a search, and you'll find a document. So we're always looking for documentation. Here, remember, we are going to strip away everything. Re-add domain admins. And here we're going to say domain admins gets everything. And here we are going to say domain users. So everyone in the domain will be able to write to this folder. And you want to check, go to effective permissions, test one of your users, one. They can do everything there. So now we need another policy to map another drive. So now we're going to put a policy under employees. We don't care about Division A. Division B is all the employees. Remember, there's one employee in Division A, one employee in Division B. But I need a place that everyone can get to. Now, would I necessarily put read-write? No, it probably just read would be good. You throw some documents in there, maybe policy documents, how to ask for vacation, things like that. You give other people certain rights to be able to put things in there, but you wouldn't put everything in there. You don't want everyone to save stuff anywhere, but for this example, we will make a new GPO, all employees. Okay. This one we're not going to filter this time. And I'll tell you why we filtered the other ones and didn't filter this one. The other ones really didn't need to be filtered. They applied because there were users in that policy. If there were users strictly tied to group membership and they were in different OUs, then you would probably filter by a group. So here we're going to map a new drive, create a drive SRV-2. All employees, I believe I call it. All employees. Everyone can play here. Okay, it's all employees. Well, let's give that a U. We are not going to do a target on this one. This should work without being targeted. Green means create, yellow means update, and there's red for some other stuff. You can do other things here. We can put shortcuts on of whatever you want, and you can apply them to, let's do this. Let's do the shortcut. These get outside, right? Oh, it's
Yeah, they have internet access.
MATC. Let's go. MATTC websites. That's going to be a URL, desktop, and HTTP, MATC.edu. If you had an icon file path, so we're telling this right here, oops, create a shortcut icon called MATC website. It's a URL, place it on the desktop, and that's where the URL is going to go. We're going to put that in the same policy that we did the U drive because it's all for all employees. So we'll just put all our employee policies in one place. We'll put Division A's policies in Division A, Division B policies in Division B. Okay, so now that policy is done, and there's our icon. Got pushed down to our desktop. If you knew the path of the icon ICO file, it could be whatever, you know, MATC's website is supposed to go look like. And this won't come out because we don't have Flash. Okay. Now, I am a user. Oops. This is asking to install Flash at that point. And no. Yeah, okay. Remember, you are a draconian warlord, and what you say goes, because you have been tasked with all that. I, the user, said, damn it, I don't want this here. I'm deleting that icon. Well, let's see if this... in 30 to 90 minutes, the icon will come back. This would simulate what the icon. And you'd sit there and go, you know, there's a problem here. I've been deleting this icon, and it keeps coming back. And the answer would be, it's supposed to. Well, you know, so. So this one, I'm not even going to log out for this one. We're just going to go out here and just do a GP update. There it is. All right. Now remember, that's a user policy. User policies will come back, other than drive mappings, depending how you configure that. And there's actually a registry setting, a group policy for that also. There's group policy for everything. There's like 2,500 group policies. Okay, now, at this point I've been yapping for 1 hour and 11 minutes. There's some other stuff we could show you. I don't know how much. If you have any questions so far, do you have any questions so far? You just got to go through it. You just go through it and then make believe you're a user. And that's where you use, and you can do this all using the switch user feature and toggle from administrator to a user. You know, unless you have, of course, I don't know what access they have to all the VMware stuff, Pat.
We all have VMware.
Those are just some small things. There's other things we can do. I don't know how much time you want to keep going on this or not. Does anyone have any questions on why I did things the way I did? Again, let's go back to here. It's all based on delegation and group policy. Delegation, which we didn't cover, is I want user 1 to have complete control over that organizational unit. He is going to be the go-to person for Division A. They're not going to call IT. They're going to call him. And we will allow that person to create and delete accounts, to modify groups in his own OU, manage group policy in his own OU. We can set a group policy at the domain level and push it to his division and make it so he can't change it. He can only add to it. Remember, you're in a company. You have certain criteria that everyone has to adhere to, but I'm going to let your HR group make their own users, manage their own users. Now, does that really work in real life? Some companies. Most companies prefer a centralized IT. But if you have a company that has a branch office in London and a branch office in Tokyo, you don't want to be calling or emailing New York for changes and for your in time lag. Oh, I'm in Tokyo HR. I can do all this myself. Now, again, this is where it comes to process. The process is to do the following: to make the account, assign the permissions, so on and so forth. I'm assuming by giving you delegation that you're going to follow these rules. Otherwise, all the technology is going to fall apart. But you can do delegation, but you don't want to do delegation over the whole domain. For example, at MATC, I have delegated the help desk to be able to move computers from computer OU to the correct workstation OU. They can move those computers. When they move those computers, they get new rules. For example, the rules they might get would be when updates get applied, when certain tasks get applied. Updates don't get applied equally at North, West, South, and Milwaukee at the same time. That would be crazy to have all those PCs rebooting at one time. You split those apart into different pieces. Again, you have either delegation or group policy. If you break everything out, you can be as granular as you like. You might as well be as granular up front. Again, the idea is putting groups. For these guys who are here, I only have to go to one place to look for all the groups. I don't have to see if there's a group here. Yes, you could put a group here. You could put a group there. You could put your workstations, pile them all up in here. For example, our workstations are divided up by campus. Campus has different rules. So we're doing a geography. Partially geography and partially by division. Under employees, Pat's part of the business. Actually, Pat's not part of the business division. We have elected to put all the faculty into one OU to prevent, when they move, a lot of excessive moving within Active Directory. We have everything is automated, actually. HR, you get hired tomorrow. In IT, you get hired today. Tomorrow, your ID will be automatically made in IT. You'll be given all the permissions, the home directory, everything will be done for you. But it all starts at HR. And we have a product, an IDM, identity management product, that does all that. It takes something from Cosmo or like Info Online, which you know Info Online, and it takes that file, which is a flat file, line by line, and it feeds it into identity management. And identity management says, oh, this field says your last name, this field says your middle name, first name, your Cosmo ID or whatever you call it, and it loads it in to a table. I don't know how many people have done programming and load tables. You guys are all too young to know what COBOL is, probably. We used to load tables, and that's what it does. It builds out, there's a table, and here's the table. All these fields are tables. It fills all this stuff in automatically. So we don't have to do that. So this is why you also break things down into pieces. It is easier to manage. You can find stuff easily. You say, oh, well, I want to find the user one. Oops. There's the user one. There's the stuff. I shouldn't have to sit there and grovel through going, oh, geez, where is the? I don't know where they are. We put the member server here separately because they're going to have separate rules. You're not going to do a Windows update on a servers. You will, but not automatic updates. I can't have that server booting in 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So there you would put different.
So then on the domain controller, I can just add the servers, I mean, as client servers, other servers, and I can just configure the group policies on those servers, and domain can still control those all clients.
Correct. We do not put any group policy on domain controllers.
Right.
I cannot have those go down. I can't be restrictive on those. The servers have a lighter policy. They'll have a default, yes, you have to control alt delete, you'll have no one's displayed, they'll auto lock after 10 minutes. PCs would be the lightest group. But if you did the whole group policy here, it would apply it equally to servers and PCs. They are not the same. Just as you as an administrator is not the same as a user. You do not want that stupid MATC icon on your desktop. Remember, we just put that in the employee OU. Your ID is over here. It's not going to apply to you. Why would you want it to? You know? Other question? Yes, sir.
So if you accidentally, let's say, you accidentally create a workstation inside of the domain controller, can you move that into
Sure.
the workstation?
Remember how we moved this other one before?
Right.
You right click, move.
But as far as permissions, do you lose what you had at that level?
Well, when you're moving servers, workstations around, there are really no permissions that you have to worry about. The permissions, the resources aren't assigned here. They're assigned on the other resource servers. What they would get, though, if you move a user, let's close this guy here. If you move a if you move this user from here, division B to division A, what will change? One thing will change right now. What will change? Anyone remember? That drive. Remember, division B gets a Q drive, division A gets a S drive. He would now get a Q drive mapping. However, it would not work. Why is that? Because he's a member of the wrong group and the permissions are not assigned to him, they are assigned to the group. But that's a good thing. Because now when this guy calls and says, I'm trying to map a Q drive or an S drive, and you're looking at his ID and you're thinking to yourself, but the S drive is division A, you're in division B. Did you move divisions? Did you go to HR and get moved? Well, no. Well, then maybe someone moved you accidentally. Or the opposite is true. I got moved. Well, you didn't tell anyone because there was no automation to pick this up. Automation only does what it tells you to do. Let's see. Is there any?
Bob, when you did those, was it a preference or a policy that you implemented those?
For the drive mapping is a preference.
Okay.
The S-stop icon is a preference. It's not a policy. They added preferences in 2003.
Okay.
That was a big expansion on policies. I mean, drive mappings. The old way was to use a net use command out of a batch file. And you'd say net use space server name share non-persistent, and you would run net use commands. This is so much more powerful to be able to filter by groups. Filter by groups. Those that want to leave, I guess, be welcome to leave. The only other thing I was going to show someone would be a question.
How did METC generate all the passwords for users to log in?
For which users?
All users. For example, they pull it from...
It's an algorithm that pulls it from some logical pieces that only you know.
That you use from Info Online? 'Cause that's
No.
like the first password. And then
It's a piece that what's that? Well, what's your default password? I assumed I assumed everyone's changed their default
Yeah.
password. What was your default password?
But how do they generate the first password for everyone to log in?
You take pieces of data that the user knows, and you parse it, and you make it the same. If a field contains 8 pieces of information, you take pieces of that field, and you say, I'm going to take this piece, this piece, this piece, and this piece, or 6 pieces, and that'll be your default. It's information you already know. You can do it with anything you want. We could say, make it your first 4 initials of your street address. But of course, then you have to factor in, but what if his street address is only 2 initials? You have to take a known quantity. And we don't use Social Security numbers. We take another known item that you provided to us when you filled out the forms here.
I understand that, but where and how do they implement that in the system?
That's done through the Info Online Cosmo system.
Okay, like through
That's
Novell or
through.
no?
Pardon?
Through Novell, like you mentioned
No.
earlier?
Novell takes it from Cosmo. You ever know Cosmo is? Info Online, let's say, and parses it into eDirectory's in IDM system. My file is my date of birth, Dorn, comma, Robert, comma, L, comma, Cosmo number, comma, campus in a numeric value, division in a numeric value, supervisor in a alphanumeric value, supervisor in a numeric value, and it's all one string. And it takes that information out of that string and drops it into the appropriate places. You map those values against the values in here. So I take this display name. There is no such display name in your Cosmo. It's a combination of first name, last name. Becomes your display name.
I think the question though is like, is there a script that you guys run to create all this passwords?
Oh, sure.
That's, I think,
Well, no, it doesn't create the
Yeah.
it does not create the password. It takes part of your user information that you know and makes your password from it.
Okay.
Now, recently, we used to do 6-character passwords for everyone. All of a sudden, Google at one time decided 6 is not good enough, we're going to 8. And we don't recall ever seeing an email from Google saying they changed. So if you were in the system in the Gmail prior to their change, you still have a 6-character password. However, what happened is your Info Online password was now pushed to Google with 2 zeros added to it. Now, just so you know, several systems are in synchronization and some are not. Your Info Online username and username, you have your username, Dornar. My password is 123. My eDirectory ID, which becomes my Active Directory password, is also set to the same. However, every 120 days I have to change that, just as you do. When you change your eDirectory password, which changes your Blackboard password, which changes your Active Directory password, it will not change your Info Online password. It will not change your Gmail password. All we do is preload those passwords to those systems the first time around. Gmail you get to keep for life. So when we delete your account here, when you're done, your Gmail account stays out there. Your Info Online account stays out there for life too. However, your Active Directory account, you all have Active Directory accounts. Every one of you do. You can use all the computers and all the libraries, and you log in with your ID. What is your ID? It is not the numeric value. It is the alphanumeric value. You need to go to Info Online to look that up. But then you can use all the computers in the library. You do not get a home directory. You have access to the computer. The idea is, generic ideas are bad. We get a request once a week, sometimes, from the police department or the FBI wanting to hunt down IP addresses and find out who sent this email, who was logged into this computer. You can't do that with generic IDs. Why would anyone log into Gmail with Dornar and send something to the FBI with Dornar? You'd be crazy to. You know? But you could go in and create an ID anywhere and send a threatening letter from a public computer and walk away. So the idea is security. It's better security. Be like leaving your house back door open. Well, we don't need that security. People should just come and go as they want. Try to apply that in reverse to everything else that you work with sometimes, and it doesn't work. You need that security. Otherwise, we always joke, well, if we didn't need security, we'd have one account called MATC. Everyone would just use it. One big shared drive. Oh, I can't have that. He can't see what I'm working on. Oh, so it does matter. So now you do have to have separate accounts. And how you implement and how you keep that security going is a group effort. There's politics involved, and someone needs to go back to the political people and say, just to be sure, you want this change. Here's what it may affect. If that's okay with you, put it in writing, sign, dot, everything, we can change it. You can change anything. You built it all. You can change it as long as you let people know the ramifications of their change. I want everyone to be able to get to my Division A drive. Well, you probably don't want to do that. They should be able to. And you're in charge of Division A, so I let you do that. You know what? I came in today and everything was gone. Yeah, because Pat deleted everything. Because you let him in. You let him into your house. You gave him the key. He stole everything. Whose fault is that? Well, I need all that stuff back. Well, that's going to take time now. You know, 42 gigabytes worth of stuff, that's going to take time. You know? So, I don't, let's see, the only other thing we talked about briefly is shadow copies. We are going to enable shadow copies. Okay, and the settings are going to be, shadow copies are on shares. We're going to schedule a shadow copy. Let's see what it's scheduled for. Default, 7 o'clock every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday of the week, and noon, 7 and noon. Monday through Friday, not Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Shadow copy is a snapshot. And we have to have a limit. Because if you don't have a limit, you'll run your server out of space. Does everyone know what quotas are? Are quotas a good idea, yes or no? Probably. Because Pat loves downloading games. And Pat the other day, I'm making this up, caused the entire server to die because he filled it up with his games. Now, all of you guys can't get to your home directories because he filled the server up. Why would you not want quotas? Well, Pat would get upset if I gave quotas. Who cares? He's pissed off, but you're not. I've got one guy pissed off and not 20 people pissed off. There are quotas. You can quota out by type of files within Active. It's within Windows. You can say, I'll let you save anything except for MP3s. And it will not save MP3s. And I'm going to give you 3 gigs of space because that's more than enough. If you're saving more than 3 gigs, I want to see what you're saving. When you get to 3 gigs, or at 85% of 3 gigs, it'll generate an email message. It'll send it to you, if I want, and to the administrators. Pat Fetter, 85%. Pat Fetter, 90%. Pat Fetter, 95%. We've seen this happen. It goes 85, 90, 95. That means someone's copying something big. And it hits 100, and what happens? Boom! Stops. That guy's upset. I couldn't copy this. What the heck were you copying? So again, that's, you know, we're trying to balance all that off. Anyway, we're going to create a shadow copy at 2:30, and the reason we did this is because now we should have a shadow copy on user 1. So previous version, shadow copy. No previous versions, so we didn't make any changes. Okay, do that. Oh, silly me. I did the shadow copies on the wrong server. Question? I know if you have to go, you got to go. So.
When you get a chance, Bob, the other thing maybe is we have that DHCP server set up, and which is for the clients that are hardwired. Do you want to comment a bit, like if
Oh,
the
well,
same thing was on?
let's see. Let's
some
close that,
laptops
close
coming up?
that. Close that. Too much going on there. Too much going on there. Okay. We set up DHCP, Dynamic Host Control Protocol. We did an IP4. Here's the scope. The options. You put your router in. Remember, these things come from the server. Those two are the server. Yellow server, blue scope. Statistics. There are 149 available, 155 total. There's 154 addresses available. A 6-day lease. That's like unprecedented. That's an outrageous amount of time. However, if you don't have a lot of PCs, it's okay. DNS says when you grab an address, you're also going to update DNS. And then you're going to discard it when the lease is deleted. We use smaller leases than 6 days. Remember, after 50% of the time, or 3 days, it'll ask for the lease. It'll talk to the server. It'll ask for the server. Are you still there? Yep, server. I'm still here. Okay, good. Everything's cool. At 75%, are you still there? Yep, I'm still there. When the lease ends in 6 days, it just doesn't talk to the server anymore, and the server goes, I haven't heard from you in 6 days. I'm getting rid of that IP address and putting it back in the pool, and anyone else can use it. Something that we do on our wireless leases, how long do you think a good wireless lease should be? You see, as this PC lease is 6 days. PC doesn't move. A wireless leash,
Few hours.
pardon?
A few hours.
A few hours, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't need anything longer. Every device you walk in with grabs an IP address. You may not use it, but it grabs an IP address. Wireless, there's two things. There's associated and authenticated. We have over 1,200, 1,300 devices that are associated. That means I'm talking to the access point. But remember, you have to agree to the MATC agreement. That's authenticated. And you can't get out without that. So I don't want to give you a long lease because you're going to be here for a couple hours. And you're going to leave, and then if I left you have that lease for 6 days, I would just be tying up an IP address for 6 days. Also, for a wireless, you do not update DNS. DNS will get pounded with updating addresses continually. We use, if you've ever had reservations, we actually use reservations. What's a reservation? Does anyone know what a DHCP reservation does?
Reserves that.
Pardon?
Reserves that.
Reserves that address for that device. How do I determine what is my factor in the device is MAC address. You need to know the MAC address. You can call this whatever you want. That doesn't matter. You can call it whatever you want down here. It's the MAC address. The MAC address of that PC will always get this IP address. Well, someone would say, well, why don't you just put a static IP address on that PC then?
Would you use that for service or
No. You use that for our content filtering. There are certain areas of the college that you can't go to certain sites. Pretty much requested by who's ever in charge of that area. So they say, well, I don't want you to go into any porn. So we have to go out and get the MAC addresses of 75 computers and then put them in a contiguous block of IP addresses. And the reason we have to put a contiguous block, because on the firewall content filter, it's by continuous block. There are 36 categories in the content filter that we can filter by. And then when we'll say you don't get any porn, you don't get this, you don't get any militant sites, you don't get this, and this is by request of whoever runs that area. Knowing very well that there are still other areas you can get everything, but not here, you're not. So people go, well, you're blocking my freedom of speech and all that stuff. Now go somewhere else. Go in a different room. In this room, I had proposed almost 17 years ago, we have one room where it's just a free-for-all. Don't care what you do in there. And then you would give a QoS or quality of service value very low. But you can do whatever you want. You don't need to do whatever you want everywhere else. We had once where our bandwidth. This is probably 8 years ago. The bandwidth was just getting torn up every day at 9 o'clock. So we would look, and we had a product that would say, who are the top offending IP addresses? And we see one, and then of course, through DHCP, remember, through DHCP, here we are. We could see this, and we knew what the computer name is, and our computer names are named in such a way that we know what room everyone is in. And we then clicked further in to figure out what this person was doing, and they were downloading Vietnamese soap operas. So we knew what room it was in based on the PC name. We went into that room, and here a person was sitting with a USB drive off the computer, downloading Vietnamese soap operas into their hard drive. And of course, we went to the person up front and said, just to let you know, this person is doing this. And that person said, what do you want me to do about it? I said, that is up to you. Because there is no policy against not to. You know, unfortunately, we've become, and this is my opinion, it's not school's opinion, we've become a society of, if you don't say I can't do it, I'm going to do it.
Right.
I mean, come on, it's just, you know, myself, my draconian, I would just yank the cable right out and say, what are you doing? But they're going to say, well, this is a public facility. I should be able to do this. Again, that's where you would say, send them off to a room with a QoS, quality of service is low, and do whatever you like. But that impacted over half of the main building. Because this person was just dragging. They didn't care. They were just doing whatever. Yeah, it's just loading, and we're like, holy crap. You know? I mean, we see people streaming radio. That doesn't take much bandwidth. You're right, for one person. Have 500, 600 people do that. YouTube, bad. Anything streaming, bad on your bandwidth, tough on your bandwidth. You know, when you have limited bandwidth, at my wife's place, she works at Wheaton, they all go through a proxy server. She's the vice president of operations over there. She gets a report every month of every website you've been to, every website you've been to. And if you've been to websites that are not business related, you are written up. Go twice, you are fired.
I use YouTube.
Pardon?
I use YouTube, but I use it for my students.
But I'm just saying
I'm not watching whatever movies. I'm just downloading. There are a lot
sure.
of interesting stuff on
Oh,
YouTube.
well, yeah, but do it at home.
No,
That's
no,
what-
no, no. I use it for my classes.
Okay, yeah, I'm buying that. So, at her place, they don't buy it.
Honestly.
Yeah, at
Have
her,
you guys watched DEF CON? Have you guys? I mean, this is.
you know,
this is
at her place, they don't buy that because that costs money. That bandwidth costs money. You know, everyone here goes, we need more bandwidth. Well, what we need to do is get a program to run, figure out what everyone's doing, and then determine whether you really need more bandwidth. We spend
But under those policy group settings, you can limit the bandwidth, can't you,
No.
for each user?
no this
You can't do that?
no not in
You can
Active
edit the
Directory.
RAM, you can edit all that, but you can't edit the bandwidth.
That's affecting the machine and or the user. Now, if you've pushed your people through a proxy server for web access, you could limit the sites they go to.
Okay.
Or, since we don't do that, we have a separate product tied to our firewall called a content filter. And it takes place like that. There's no reboot, there's nothing, because it's at the physical layer. It's at layer 1, based on the IP address, boom, takes place automatically. Then people will call up and say, why can't I get here? It'll say, blocked because of porn. And then
Yeah.
we just go back and say, you ask your supervisor if it's okay. You know, I need this porn. Yes.
What about people plugging in outside of, like, I don't know what the requirements are, if it's even possible, but can somebody plug into your servers? If, like, let's say you have Wi-Fi access, and they have the passwords, can they plug in and take one of
Do you-
their user spots?
What is the best answer in any IT situation? It
Depends.
It depends. If on that wireless LAN depends on what resources they have access to. The MATC guest has access to a list of that many internal resources. If you are on the other wireless LAN, you would have access to at least the front of the server, at which point then your security has to take over. So again, it depends. What do you want the people to do? What do they think they need to do? You know, and all that type of stuff.
Well, I have a quick, maybe you can kind of summarize it, man, because it's a big question, but let's say this environment that you just set up right now,
Yes.
your domain control, your member server, your 2 clients, let's say that you're actually, I want to use it. I want to run this for a small company down the street. Okay.
Yes.
So right now I have two servers and 2 clients that are both, they're patched, Windows updates are up to
Right.
stuff. But there's nothing as far as, antivirus. Can you answer that easily? Can you say, like, to handle most situations you would want to do this to your servers and this to your clients kind of thing?
Well, for antivirus or for everything?
just
For everything.
Everything. I want to
Well, obviously, antivirus, you want something.
Right.
Again, what does it depend on? Cost. How much money you got? Want to use Microsoft Essentials? How many PCs? 10? You can use Microsoft Essentials. 1,000? You need something that can manage the computers.
I see.
You're going to
Yeah.
need something enterprisey, Kaspersky, whatever.
Mhm.
What's a good example of that?
McAfee and Norton that can manage huge amounts of clients. We use McAfee because it ties to our UW license. We're tied with UW. Would I run this current setup in a business? Heck no, you need at least 2 domain controllers.
Mhm.
Can you virtualize one? Sure. Would you want to make 2? Probably just make 2. Put them in the same location? Probably not. Put them in separate locations. They need some type of high-speed link in between them. Don't put them where the janitors get their stuff because they're going to have access. Don't put them on the first floor. Don't put them on the top floor. Put them in between. You don't want floods, fires, brick, no glass, wood doors, steel doors. I mean, if someone gets in there, there's an old story that some company, some people thought, I've got my servers in this room and they're right here. I've got brick. I've got motion detection, everything else. They'll never get my stuff. They took a bulldozer and rammed through the outside wall, picked up the domain controller and ran. They knew what was going on, but they didn't come in through the front door. They just ran right through the wall on the outside. There's always, security is not unbeatable. You can get it high, And we have 4 domain controllers. We have redundancy. Now it comes at a cost of replication. Now the changes you make have to replicate across all 4 of them. It goes pretty fast. But remember we talked about that IDM? That IDM system comes from Cosmo, goes to eDirectory, which is Novell. And the eDirectory talks to Active Directory. Only one server. That one then replicates it out to the other 4.
Okay.
We have 3 DHCP servers. We do an 80-20 model of DHCP. 80% of the leases are on one server per scope, 20 on the other one. And then you flip it to the next scope. DNS replicates across everything. So that's not an issue. You got to think, all your servers have dual power supplies. We don't team our servers network-wise, but all our servers are set up in RAID 5. A lot of people go, well, you should have RAID 0 for the operating system. Yeah, well, whatever. Just RAID 5 the whole thing, and when disk goes bad, you just throw a new disk in. If it goes RAID 0 or 1, and then you got to worry about breaking the mirror, reassembling the mirror. So most of our stuff is RAID 5. Even on our SQL stuff is RAID 5. We're looking for redundancy and fault tolerance as a premium, sometimes over speed. So, yes.
Going on to what you just mentioned, hard drives, how often do they go bad?
We have every morning there is a process for the morning person that actually goes up and down the aisles with the lights out and looks for amber lights. Everything's green, right? Computers, everything green, good. And they go up and look for amber. If they have amber, we go out, take the drive out, reseat it, see if it rebuilds. If not, pull it. We have a shelf with extra drives that when you get rid of servers, you don't get rid of servers. You take out all these pieces and save pieces of everything. Put a new drive in, the drive rebuilds. You check against the database, is that drive under warranty? Why would you pay for it? Under warranty, poof, off to HP. HP gives us a new drive, put it back on the shelf. So how fast they go bad?
Because they're constantly getting bombarded, aren't they?
Well, they're all mechanical, 15,000 RPM drives.
Okay.
We haven't gone to solid state drives.
I wouldn't even imagine how much it would cost though.
Solid state drives?
For a server?
Well, drives are everything for as soon as he says server, the price just goes up, exponentially. It's the same RAM, not server RAM. We're going to pay more. Doing business costs lots of money.
Yeah.
We're education. We get these huge educational discounts. I can't imagine a regular company paying for some of this stuff. It's just
That's
the
why
cost is just
Then
Sorry.
I said we branch out to, you said channel 10, channel 6, or
Channel 36, channel 1036. We also have 85 outreach sites. Now we do not network out to the outreach sites, but we have like the Indo-Chinese Center, we have a center here, center there. All of it's community-based, one teacher.
So we charge those companies like a discounted rate because they're going through.
No, they're actually MATC.
Oh, yeah.
We lease space from your father's building. So we lease the space, because leasing's always better than buying if you're in a flux.
Is that
Now
to our own IP? Or
we have a Class B license. We have
Yeah.
We have 65,000 addresses. However, at those outreach sites, we don't use our addresses. They go off and they get their own Roadrunner connection,
Okay.
their own AT&T connection. Internic now, who still owns our Class B license, we don't own it. We just lease it every year. They want some of our addresses back. As you know, the internet is running out of IP4 addresses. They want those back. We address everything with a public addressing scheme. They keep telling us we should go to a private addressing scheme, and we'll give you 200. We will take your 65,000 addresses, and we'll give you 255 or 500, and that's all you can get for your outbound servers. Your inside stuff should all be a 10 network.
10 network, yeah.
You know, that's a monumental undertaking to convert something like that. If you want to go to a NAT translation, or you can go to an IP6. Now you got to make sure all your routers, everything can talk IP6. Of course, you got to get those addresses from like an internet type place. So, everyone says we've been running out of addresses for the last couple of years. We're still not out of addresses because people are still natting everything. But all these devices are still taking up lots and lots of lots and lots of addresses. So we should be okay by the time I retire, right, Bench?
One more question too about your shadow copy. Can you choose where that copies and how much does it copy?
Well, right now here,
The whole drive.
we're gonna no. It's going to copy. There's 3 shares. It'll only do shadow copies on shares.
Okay.
So it's going to do 3 shares. So we're going to enable it. Yeah, whatever it says. And settings are 4 gigabytes. It's going to do it Monday, whatever. Okay. So there's a shadow copy. Now it will create a new one at tomorrow morning. And so no, we want a new one. We want a we want a new shadow copy at 255.
Okay.
So now we have a shadow copy at 7, at noon, and at 2:55 today. So in 2 minutes, it will do a shadow copy of all the shares on the C drive. So if we look at the C drive, how many shares do we have? We got 1, 2, 3. So it'll shadow copy all 3 of those in 2 minutes, And then as a dumb user, we should be able to go out and delete a file and restore it by ourselves.
You know, the thing too though is that the shadow copies, you don't want to rely on them because it's, you know, it's only a certain amount of space.
There's
so-
a, yes. So people would say, well, I got shadow copies. When we started, I had shadow copies that went back 2 months. Now it goes back about, remember, I'm doing 4 of them a day. I can get about 2 weeks out of it. I set a limit of 50 gigs just for shadow copies. But it sure beats restoring from tape.
Yeah.
Restoring from tape takes a long time. Not so much that the actual restore process, but you got to figure out where the tape is. Go down to a vault. Where should tape be stored? 1 copy on site and 1 copy off site. At least 16 miles away. That's some nuclear thing. So there's times when we had to do a restore. 5 years ago, we had to get in the car and drive to another location to go into a room with a key, to grab another key, grab another key, and go into a cabinet, look through, find that tape. Now where this location is, there is no tape drive. Drive back downtown, open up the tape drive, slap the tape in, rescan it, and now say, now I can do the restore.
Where's the tape drive?
Tape drive.
Old school.
Tape drive, old school. We actually back up now to hard drive, and then once a week to tape. So we've got like 8 different ways to get your data back. So the shadow copy is a short-term fix. I had some girl the other day said, I'm missing files. Do you know where these files are? Well, they're on my iDrive. Do you know what folder they're in? Well, I'm just missing lots of different files. So finally she got to a folder that she knew about. And I said, well, you have 1 file in that folder. Well, I had more. So when did you last see them? Through shadow copy now, I can keep going back days. And all of a sudden I found it where there was a big discrepancy. It was 50 files compared to 1 file. So I would copy all those files. I copied them back while she was, and then she could look right away. Of course, then she said, I'm missing other files. Would you like your entire home directory restored? Yes. Next question is, from when? From Monday. At what time? Well, I don't know. Noon? Is that okay? Yes. So we did a restore. And then she was fine. Oh, good, now everything's there. But you know, I'm missing a file I worked on yesterday. You're right, you did. Because remember, we stored it back to Monday. Everything on Tuesday and Wednesday is gone.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. Well, no, we kind of, hopefully, and you know, you got to remember, not everyone can understand the technology. You make assumptions. Well, everyone should know this. You have to really lay it out and see what's going on. Let's see if our shadow copy worked. It would have worked across all files. Right click, properties, previous versions. Thinking? That one didn't change, did it? I changed one of these. It'll only do the ones that changes, too. It's making a liar out of me. I'm going to restart that one and restart this one. But what you should see is a copy of it from 255.
There you go. Bye.
Okay, 258 is the last shadow copy. There, okay. So this file, there's a shadow copy there. So now I'm the user and I'm on my H drive. and I delete this file, and I go, oh crap, I just deleted that file. Now, it's not in the recycle bin. I don't know where it is. What they can do, you as the administrator could come over here, and since she let, is that on user 2 or user 1? User 1. Okay, here's a whole bunch of the other ones. I need the one from here. I'm going to right click to copy that. I don't want to do a restore. That causes a whole bunch of other issues. Because people have a tendency to restore everything. Just copy it over. So now
the
it's.
user doesn't have the ability to restore it on their own, but they.
Sure they do. They just couldn't. They can't get to the root of this folder. If we had another folder in here, that they could get to folder 3, and then under folder 3, we would have 3. They could get to that folder. Let's see.
I thought I saw
Right here. Yeah, here they could get to it. There it is. They could restore it themselves.
Oh, okay.
You have to be real. You need some good documentation, because here's what they're going to do. They're going to hit restore,
Right.
which
Yeah,
will restore everything in that folder. Well, I only wanted the one file, but they went back to 252 and restored everything. A little knowledge is bad sometimes. It's easier for us to restore them in 3 minutes than try to walk an end user through a 3-minute restore that's going to take 10 minutes or 15 minutes to explain to them.
You could disable that previous version on your Windows 7 clients, couldn't you?
I was
Couldn't you?
yeah,
So
I was
that
gonna ask
only-
if there was a group policy.
I'm sure
or
through a group
something.
policy you could disable that tab.
Yeah.
The equivalent of hiding the tab.
Right.
However, what we have done though, we do remote control.
Oh, I see.
And I don't have that set up, but you would do remote control where you remote to the person's PC. They allow you to take control.
Mhm.
You then walk them through.
Okay.
Hopefully that the phishing theory will work. How to restore their own file, and then they can help others do it.
Yeah.
Most of the problem is when you help them and they try to help others, they forget a critical step.
Right.
And then, of course, they'll say, well, I'm not IT, what do I know? Well, you just messed up that guy's entire stuff. You know? So, I think we got through most everything here. You can also make a GPO, a group policy. We do one for restarting the computers at night. And when they come out of restart mode, we're going to automatically clean them, which is Clean Manager. Everyone know what Clean Manager is? Yes, yes. You've done Clean Manager? We actually do it. We do a clean MGR, Sage set, colon. The number is irrelevant as long as it's between 1 and 65,000. This will say that when Clean Manager runs, I want to delete, and we do this purposely because we don't let the end user do it. That's not, there's lots of stuff. Okay. Nothing's happened. However, on a script, you would run clean manager. Remember we did sage set, sage run, and the number that you assigned. And now it's going to automatically in the background clean this PC. The person's not logged on. It's doing it at 3 in the morning. Once that's done, what would you run? A defrag. We're going to defrag the PC. Now this will only work. And then another thing we run is profile cleanup. If the profile is older than 20, see, it's all done already. And there was no interaction. So we made that with no interaction. Profile cleanup. If you haven't logged into your machine in 20 days, why am I keeping that profile out there? Just delete it. Especially on not on your machine, but on a lab situation like in the library. Why would I want to hold 80 or 90, 150 profiles. Delete them if no one's used them. Yes, every time you log in, man, this is slow. Smart, go to the same machine. Keep going to the same machine. They'll log a lot faster. But you can put that in group policy too. And that's just a policy that says, run this executable. Now, of course, for all this to happen, and I got to go also, the PC has to remain on. So, do you defrag every night? No. Once a week? It's probably too much, but can I guarantee that machine is on? Yeah, maybe. Gives better performance. Faster PC is a happier person. People don't like slow. The internet's slow. And meanwhile, their PC's going, that's really not the internet, it's a PC, you know. So we just did shadow copies. That helps. You helped restore them. You should still have another backup recovery, you know, for the domain controllers. You should need a different backup plan. What's going to happen when these babies die? I had one die once.
Can you choose where you make a shadow copy?
Pardon?
Can you choose where they make the shadow copy?
Yeah, I'm sure you could through Google. It just makes it wherever
On the
configured to make
server.
it. Probably at the root of some hidden folder.
Same browser.
Domain controller, you should have a way to restore that, or have a plan in place. I had a domain controller go down once, middle of the day. Fortunately, it wasn't the primary. Even this goes back to NT days. There's still a domain controller that holds most of the roles. And what you had to do, this domain controller went down hard. The controller broke. Well, there was no extra controller to put in. So I'm working with this. I moved all the roles. Now you only have one domain controller. If that goes down, you'll lose all your users. You lose all your permissions and everything. So I'm working to try to get a new domain controller built. And at the time, someone come up and asked me, can you go over and see this person in the high administration? I said, well, I kind of got this little issue here. I don't care. I need you to go see this person. And that person had a problem viewing a movie. So I was pulled away to help someone watch a movie. That becomes politics. Who's signing the check? You know? Domain controller going down. On my way. What?
Thanks.
Okay, see you in a bit. So there's the stories we could continue on, and there's more stuff